All right, let's talk about how mountains are formed, right? Why does Earth have topography? Why are some elevations really high in the mountains? Why are some elevations really low in the valleys? What forms mountains? All right, so another word for mountain building is orogeny. So from now on, when I say orogeny, I mean how mountains are built. So this is a map of elevations around the world, and you can see that dark brown shows really high elevations, whereas the yellow tan color shows mid elevations and the dark green shows low elevations on land. Right, so the mountains are shown in brown. Notice that we have really high mountains on the west coast of the US, the west coast of South America, along the southern belt of Asia. Okay, so what creates mountains? What might cause mountains to show up where they are? Okay. Previously, we've learned about plate tectonics, and you might remember that both the west coast of the US and South America, both North America and South America, are at active plate margins, active subduction zones. You might also remember that Southern Asia has a lot of convergent plate boundaries, a lot of subduction zones. Okay, so this might help us start to answer why are there mountains in some places and not others. Now, another question we might have is, why are some mountains really small, like the Appalachian Mountains near where we live, and others huge, like the Himalayan mountains in between India and the rest of Asia? Okay, so the Himalayan mountains are way, way bigger than the Appalachian Mountains. The Appalachian Mountains, they have rolling hills, right? But you can see from the top of the mountain to the bottom of the mountain if you're standing on it. They're fairly small mountains. Whereas the Cascade mountain range and along the US West Coast, their mountains are much, much taller, right? They're much pointier. There's a huge elevation change. Sometimes when you're on the top of the mountain, you can't see all the way to the bottom of the mountain. And then the mountains can get even bigger, like the Himalayan mountains. These are so big, you can never see the bottom of the mountain, right? They're so tall, so much different than the small rolling hills of the Appalachian Mountains, right? So we might start having these questions of what forms mountains, why are mountains where they are and not other places, and why are some mountains huge, whereas other mountains are much, much smaller? What creates mountains and what creates the variation in mountains?